gentlemen, the Denver Broncos come to Philadelphia in the Week 5 matchup, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Now, listen, if this were a game in Mile High, I would say the point spread of 4.5 points is high. However, going to Philadelphia is a whole different animal. It really, really is. It's one of the best home and field advantages in all of football. And after going to Tampa Bay and winning in the fashion that we did, I thought we were going to lose in Tampa. I can't confidently go into any game and say that Philadelphia now is going to lose a game. Until somebody comes out here and beats this football team, you have to assume that Philadelphia is going to be favored no matter who they play. It's similar to what Buffalo is like this season. Everybody that they play, they're going to be favored against now. This season and over the past 2 years, I said this stat on the last time we were on the air. When Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith finish a game from opening kickoff till the clock hits 0, they have not lost a game in the NFL together. That's remarkable. And it hasn't changed this year as we're 4-0. More likely than not, we're going to be 5-0. And with the spread at 4.5 points, Vegas thinks so too. Now, the Denver Broncos are a good football team. They have talent. They have a really damn good defense. And they are going up against this Philadelphia Eagles offense, which has been underwhelming at the very least. Just to put it kindly, if we're going to be real about it, the offense stinks. The good thing about this matchup, though, is that I think there are things that Philadelphia can do to exploit some matchups. I think this is going to be a game, we'll get into it a little bit more, where Saquon can take advantage of some things. Barkley may have a big game here. And honestly, it really just depends what you view about Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix versus Vic Fangio, Sean Payton and Bo Nix versus Vic Fangio, I think might be a little bit of a toss-up for Denver's side because Bo Nix is either really good or really bad. And like I said, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But before we get into all of that and break this game down and give you a preview for the Eagles versus the Broncos, let me introduce you to the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am your host, Asif Badi, and like you, I am a Birds fan who talks about the birds, only the birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor here, help us grow this channel organically by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribing to the channel. Also, check us out on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a 5-star review because it doesn't cost you a damn thing. Go ahead and subscribe, and I will not ask you for a penny in this economy. If you ever do want to donate, do let me know. DM me, email me. We would appreciate your support. We appreciate your support by liking the channel and sharing it to a buddy on the opposite side of the camera and on the opposite side of the airways. We thank you for your support. Okay, let's talk about the Broncos first. Again, because we know everybody knows who comes here what we believe about Philadelphia, okay? Their offense is bad. Their defense has been better than expected. They've been winning games by the skin of their teeth, but it's been showing championship mettle. They've been winning games in different ways. Yada, yada, yada. All good there. We'll talk about that passing game in just a moment later on. However, this Denver team is one of the more stranger teams to look at in the NFL because on paper, and you look at some of the things that they've done, you would say, wow, this team could take the next step. They are really good. They have a lot of good players on the offensive side. They've added some weapons. They have a damn good head coach in Sean Payton, who, again, as much as I like Sean Payton, hasn't done a damn thing without Drew Brees. And again, that's no shame or knock on Sean Payton. It's just the reality of it. You have this top flight defense, which I believe probably is the best in the NFL, at least in terms of its balance, in terms of every single level that it plays on, and the players that they got. I think they have really, really quality players on that Denver Broncos defense on every single level. So I think this is the toughest defense that will probably play in the NFL season thus far in 2025, probably for the rest of the year. So again, really good players on all fronts, a good front office, good GM, good coach, right? They do a lot of good things over there. However, you got a quarterback in Bo Nix, who again, I think is good. I think he could play, but he goes up and down. He's a young quarterback. It's his second year in the NFL, obviously, so he's going to have a little bit of a slump in terms of his performance. And let's look at the teams that the Broncos have played, because I think it's going to be a little bit more of a bigger factor as to why I believe Philadelphia is going to win this game ultimately. The Broncos played the Tennessee Titans at home, and that was like an ugly, ugly game. Titans gave them a little bit of a run for their money for the most part. And then they played the Colts. Then they played the Chargers, which is a division game. Again, run for their money. They lost to the Colts, obviously. Then they played the Cincinnati Bengals, who just flat out stink. So you had two stinkers against the Titans and the Bengals, who just not good football teams. And then you had two really good football teams in the Colts and the Chargers. Now, the thing that I mentioned before about Bo Nix in those games is his inconsistency up and down. Against Tennessee, he had a passer rating of 60. Bounced back against the Colts, had a passer rating of 111.2. He threw 3 touchdowns in that game. They lost on a last-second kick. Then against the Chargers, he dropped back down and then dropped back down again. Has a passer rating of 87.6. And then lastly, against the Bengals, who stink, a 97.9 passer rating. So one bad game followed by a really good game. A bad game followed by a really good game. Or another way that you can look at this, week 1 is week 1. You could toss that up to rust. But Tennessee's defense, I think for the most part, I know they are not a good football team, but I think that defense is better than what it's advertised because their offense is so bad, similar to what Philadelphia is like. You have a bad offense, your defense is going to suffer too. So I think their defense in Tennessee is actually pretty good, right? Gave him a hard time. The Indianapolis Colts, I believe their defense is pretty good too. However, it is one of those games where it's like, hey, you're playing at Mile High, second week of the season. You just played a really close game against the Titans, like a wake-up call. You come out there a little bit more focused. Bo Nix plays well. And against that Colts defense where, you know, again, they're still working some things out on the defensive side of the ball. They're getting better every week. I like them, but, you know, they're not the Philadelphia Eagles defense, for example, right? Still got some holes to pick out there, but he had a really good game against them. Then he plays one of the more elite defenses in the National Football League against the Los Angeles Chargers, a division game. Again, they know him well, but an elite defense. Has a passer rating of 87.6. And then he goes up against the Bengals, who, like I said, probably the worst defense in all of football. They are bad. They're probably worse than Carolina on the defensive side of the ball, and they have some good players over there. He had a passer rating of 97.9, probably had the best game of the year for him thus far, right? Got back on track. So some bad defenses here, some good defenses. Now he's going up against the Philadelphia Eagles defense, who's pretty damn good and is coached by probably the best defensive coordinator in football in Vic Fangio. And again, you're coming off a game against a team that had your number in Tampa Bay. You flat out beat them in the first half. You let them crawl back in the second half. But again, it was capped off by the defense sealing the day with that Jahad Campbell interception in the back of the end zone, or in the front of the end zone, excuse me. So this defense in Philadelphia, while it hasn't necessarily been a team to be shut down like it was last season, it's been a very opportunistic defense. And with a guy like Bo Nix, who has fluctuations in his play, you're probably going to see him put the ball up in the air for a player. And, you know, he's going to give you a shot to take the ball away from the Denver Broncos. He'll put it up there. And a team like Philadelphia has to be opportunistic, considering that they're going up against the Broncos defense that is elite. This offense being so slow, going up against an elite team like that, you got to come up with opportunistic turnovers. You got to confuse the young quarterback, which Vic Fangio can do. And you got to have athletes on that team because Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, J.K. Dobbins, Harvey, Evan Ingram, all these guys are athletic players. They're athletic guys. They're quick guys. They're savvy guys. And it's a Payton offense. So you gotta be keeping your head on a swivel. it ain't like Sean Payton's going to come in not prepared for this game, because every time he's played Vic Fangio in these matchups, I actually have some numbers up via AI. And let me actually just share my screen for the video audience, because I think that's probably the only fair thing to do. And for the radio audience, I will just speak these stats into existence here. The last time Vic Fangio and Sean Payton played each other was September 24th of 2023. That was the Broncos versus the Miami Dolphins game. The Dolphins had that, 70-point game that they played against the Broncos. The Broncos dropped 20 against Vic Fangio. In 2020, COVID year, the Denver Broncos again played the Denver Broncos played the Saints at the time, because Sean Payton was the head coach for the New Orleans Saints. The Saints dropped 31. The Broncos only had 3 points. It is what it is. And then probably one of my favorite games of all time. I watched this game on TV. This was one of my favorite ones that I've ever seen in my life. The NFC Divisional Playoff game, Saints versus the Niners. Alex Smith was the quarterback in this game. Jim Harbaugh, Niners. The 49ers dropped 36 points. The Saints have 32. So my point being with saying all those things is that every time these two coaches go head to head, in Vic Fangio and Sean Payton, the matchups are always pretty intense, at least for the most part. You have a blowout on one end, a blowout on one end, and then a close game in between that, right? So these coaches just know each other. They challenge each other, and it's going to be a really good matchup of wits. And now you got two units who are young in the Bo Nix offense and this Eagles defense. Who's going to make the mistake? My money is going to be on Bo Nix making the mistake, because this Philadelphia Eagles defense still has the cachet from last season, albeit they don't have as many starters as they did last year. They still have players who have been there in big moments, like Zach Bond, like Quinyon, like Cooper. Jahad Campbell's been in big games in college. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are playing well. I think more likely than not that this defense is going to cause a mistake for the Denver Broncos and make Bo Nix pay. And that's where you win the turnover battle here. All right. And then my second key point in this game that I believe is going to be the tipping point in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles is Saquon Barkley. It's about time that this Saquon Barkley running attack in Philadelphia decides to wake up. Now you're going up against the Denver Broncos defense here, who is really, really good against the pass. They're one of the better units in all of football. And again, you played teams like the Titans, like the Colts, like the Chargers and the Bengals. Again, maybe two of those teams are known for running the ball, and that's the Chargers and the Colts. And ironically, those are the two games that the Broncos gave up the most yardage against them. Tennessee Titans game, they played Tony Pollard. He had 60 yards on 18 attempts. But again, Tennessee Titans, not a very good football team, not a very good offensive football team, I should say. Then you had the Colts and Jonathan Taylor, who's a beast of a running back. One hell of a player. Probably the only true bell cow outside of Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, who you can give the ball to 20 times and him get some yards. Josh Jacobs, let me not forget him. But John Taylor had 165 yards. He averaged 6.6 yards a carry against this Broncos front. The Chargers with Omari Hampton and Najee Harris. Omari Hampton had 70 yards, averaging 3.7 yards a clip. And then Najee Harris averaged over 4 yards a carry. Now, he only had like 35, 40 yards in that game, but you get 100 yards in this Broncos defense. It proves that you can run the ball on these guys, in my opinion. And then Chase Brown averaged 4 yards a carry, but that was not a game that was relatively close in terms of matchup. So this is a game that Saquon Barkley and this offensive line could probably get going again. This Broncos defense is really, really special when it comes to defending the pass and getting after the quarterback. They already lead the league in sacks this year. You have Bonito, and I forget the other player's name on the edge, but they play really, really good football. They have Zach Allen in the middle, 5-man front that they play, similar to what Philadelphia does. And they have great cornerbacks with Pat Surtain on the other side there, right? Shutdown corner, probably the top cornerback in all of football. Him and Derek Stingley are kind of fighting that out, right? It's a young defense that is special in pass rush and special in pass defense. but you could get them in the run. If you keep them on the field and drain clock, you could beat them up. They will break at some point. Jonathan Taylor proved that in that Colts game. You give them he ran the ball 25 times and had 165 yards. Saquon Barkley is capable of doing that. I think this Philadelphia Eagles front, this offensive line, wants to get back into form. And this coaching staff, we talked about it in the episode past, their philosophy is that they want to run the ball. They don't necessarily want to chuck the ball all over the yard here. And when you're playing at home in an important game and you're trying to get an identity established, best way to do that is to go to your best players or one of your best players in Saquon Barkley, because I think A.J. Brown's the best player, but that's neither here nor there, and let him establish the tone. And when you have Jalen Hurts who's not turning it over and is also contributing into the running game, you could probably play a good 35, 37 minutes of time of possession here in this game if you are able to gash them with the run. The Broncos are going to sell out against the run, especially playing a five-man front. Can this offensive line and Saquon Barkley establish the tone? That will be the key. If they do that, if Saquon Barkley in this game averages 4 yards a carry or more, Philadelphia is going to easily win this game. No doubt in my mind. You get 4 yards a clip against this Broncos defense, you're winning the football game. Anything below that, it becomes a ball game, and that just means that the Denver Broncos defense is playing stout. We know that Philadelphia is not necessarily going to throw the ball, particularly against Patrick Surtain and the way this offense is designed. And then that also means that it's going to be a close scoring game and that Bo Nix can have a shot. And all you need is one play in these types of games. So despite all of that, though, I'm picking Philadelphia to win. The spread at 4.5 might be a little touch high. I'm going to take the points. I will take Philadelphia Eagles money line, but I'm going to pick the Broncos to cover because I think Broncos are a good football team and it is a good defense. And while we are playing at home, still a tough matchup here with this offense going on in Philadelphia. So again, I think Philadelphia is probably going to win 26-21, win a tight ball game, probably ice it with like a Jake Elliott field goal towards the end just to seal the deal, make it a little bit more of an insurmountable lead for them. And then, the defense closes it out and we go on being 5-0. And then we talk about how putrid the offense was once again, even though we won a 5th straight game to start the 2025 year. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know if you think I'm right in terms of the preview, or let me know if there's anything that you think that the Eagles need to watch out for in this game against a very good team in the Denver Broncos. So with that being said, take care and we'll see you back here next time at Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast. Hey, thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast.